What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome to my channel, guys. The college football season is just 10 days away. Count them, 10 days away. We are this close to kicking off week 0 and the 2022 college football season. Today, well, I thought we'd look at some guys that would be able this season to win college football's most prestigious award, and that is the 2022 Heisman Trophy. I'm going to be going through candidates at various differing levels of positions, kind of talk about how I think their path is going to look to get to New York, and then at the end, I'll be giving you guys my predictions on who I think the 4 guys in New York will be, along with my predicted Heisman winner this upcoming season as well. So, before we dive into this video, I do just want to say I appreciate the support on the channel over these past couple months. I did a lot of prediction videos. In fact, I predicted all 131 teams in the nation and did a conference review for every single conference, minus the independents, of course. You can go back, watch any amount of those videos you'd like. I got playlists so you can more easily find your favorite team or just a team that you may be interested in. My top 25 is out. I encourage you guys to go check out that video. You can kind of get a gauge on how I see the teams in the nation this upcoming season if you don't feel like watching 131 prediction videos, which, hey, let's be honest, I absolutely get it. But I appreciate you guys tuning in this video. Continue to like, comment, subscribe, share my videos. It does help support the channel, and it gets these videos out to as many college football fans as possible. Let's dive in to the 2022 Heisman race and kind of talk about where things stand at this point. So, as of right now, and when you look in most sports books, I'm not going to be putting odds for every single player. I'll be putting odds for 2, and that's these 2 right here, because to a lot of people, the Heisman race seems like a 2-player race, and that's between these 2 players right here. Alabama quarterback Bryce Young, who won the Heisman last year, of course was in New York, won the Heisman last year, and currently has the second best odds out of anyone to win the Heisman in most sportsbook. I used Vegas Insider. He's at plus 350 there. And C.J. Stroud. He was a Heisman finalist last year in New York. He currently has the best odds in most sports books to win the Heisman, somewhere around the plus 200 to 300 range. Bryce Young is anywhere around from plus 300 to plus 400. Again, these odds that you see on screen courtesy of Vegas Insider. You can see the stats down below. These were 2 of the best quarterbacks in the nation last year, and well, this is a debate that is not only going to be going on into December. It could continue into January if these 2 teams match up in the college football playoff, and it's going to continue all the way in April as well when you see these 2 teams as 2 of the names that may very well end up be competing for that coveted #1 draft pick spot. So this is a debate right here that's going to continue for, I'm going to say, the next 8 months between Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. But, when you take a look at both of these players, in my opinion, I would be shocked if we didn't see both of these guys in New York competing as Heisman finalists. I think they're both going to have exceptional seasons. I think they're both going to perform really, really well. Bryce Young may not put up the numbers that he did last season, but he's still going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, if not the best quarterback in the nation. And then, of course, when you look at C.J. Stroud, ever since that Tulsa game last year, remember he sat out the Akron game due to a mild injury, came back against Maryland, and ever since that Maryland game, he was phenomenal, and he looked fantastic, including a record-breaking Rose Bowl, along with his wide receiver that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But C.J. Stroud, really, really good quarterback. I absolutely see why he's the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman Trophy in 2022. Again, you're going to have to wait for my prediction here in a little bit. But these 2 guys, again, I'd be shocked if we don't see I'd be shocked if we don't see either one in the Heisman race. I think we're going to see both of these guys in New York competing as Heisman finalists. So, but Nate, I know these 2 quarterbacks are here, and yeah, they're probably going to be in New York. Who are some other quarterbacks that I need to keep my eye on in 2022? Well, let's talk about some quarterbacks to watch. Most notably, and again, these guys are in no particular order. They're not listed in terms of odds or anything like that. They're just kind of thrown up here on screen. But 10 quarterbacks that I feel like have a real shot to get to New York this upcoming season. We're going to start with Caleb Williams, because out of anyone on this list, he definitely is the most likely guy to do it. His head coach, I should say he followed his head coach. I was going to say his head coach followed him. He followed his head coach to USC. USC won the transfer portal. They got a plethra of really, really good NFL talent wide receivers. Jordan Addison is one of them there, the Biletnikoff winner from last season. Caleb Williams, in a lot of sports betting books, is the 3rd odds-on favorite to win the Heisman Trophy this upcoming year, and him getting to New York seems like a very likely possibility. I think in order for it to happen, USC's got to be competing for a Pac-12 title this upcoming season. And I think Caleb Williams is going to have a really good season, but he's got to probably eclipse 4,000 yards this year as well for him to get there, which pretty much you can say about any quarterback on this list. Now, let's kind of go down the line here. There are a couple quarterbacks here out of the state of Florida that I'd like to mention. One is Tyler Van Dyke. He plays for Miami. Now, I love Tyler Van Dyke. I love his game. I think he's going to lead Miami to do really good things, and I think he's going to be the guy for the Canes this year. And while I feel like the Canes may come up just short of that coveted 10-win year, I think Miami is going to prove that they're the real deal this upcoming season. I think Miami's going to be really good. I think they're going to fit right in, compete for a spot in the ACC title, and may even compete to win the ACC title this upcoming season as well. I really like what Miami has offensively, defensively. There's a lot of talent here on this team, and I like Tyler Van Dyke's chances. If Miami can live up to some of the expectations that have been thrown out there for them, I could see really good chance that Tyler Van Dyke is in New York competing as a Heisman finalist. Same thing with Anthony Richardson, although he's got more work to do. I think he's a little sneaky of a contender to compete for the Heisman Trophy. However, with Anthony Richardson, Florida is going to have to pull off a run in the SEC East, maybe even win the division, get to the SEC title game for Anthony Richardson to have a shot at New York. And then you see a couple more SEC East quarterbacks on here as well. That's Hendon Hooker and Will Levis. Now, both of these quarterbacks I think are going to be great. I think they're going to be phenomenal for their respective teams. I do think Will Levis is a little bit of the better quarterback, and thus I give him maybe the better shot to get to New York, as I also think Kentucky's going to be a better team than Tennessee. But all that put aside, when you just look at these two players, yeah, they have work to do in order to get to New York. And again, much like Anthony Richardson at Florida, their teams are probably going to have to pull off a run and win their division, get to the SEC championship game for them to get there. But both of those guys can do it, and I think their teams are capable. I do like both those guys play. Watch out for them to make a sneaky run towards New York this upcoming season. Keaton Slovis is there at Pitt. Of course, the former USC transfer. Pitt had a quarterback in New York competing for the Heisman Trophy last year in Kenny Pickett. And Keaton Slovis, I think, could be the second straight Pitt quarterback to get to New York. Dillon Gabriel, a former UCF prospect, is here, or former UCF player, not prospect, player in Dillon Gabriel, is now here with Brent Venables at Oklahoma. And I mean, simply put, if Dillon Gabriel can lead Oklahoma to a Big 12 title, a playoff appearance, and if he can put up some of the numbers, like he did back at UCF, where he was putting up just ridiculous numbers, 5,000-yard passing seasons, Dillon Gabriel, absolute great talent, and has a pretty solid shot to get to New York as a Heisman contender. Then we have a couple more quarterbacks out of the ACC. Devin Leary and DJ Uiangular are on teams that are going to be more highlighted by their defenses than how good these offenses play. But when I took a look at both of those quarterbacks, DJ Uiangular has a lot to improve on, but they're working on his game, and he already looks to be a better quarterback. Devin Leary, I really like his play, and I think Devin Leary has some chances this year for that Heisman moment caliber type things that we've seen out of past quarterbacks and past players before. I do like Devin Leary, DJ Uiangular, and while they have their respective stuff to work on, I could see either of those quarterbacks getting to New York. Probably the longest shot, though, on this list I see here is Malik Cunningham, the Louisville quarterback. I think Malik Cunningham, though, if he's going to get to New York, he's got to pull off a Lamar Jackson type run. We remember what Lamar Jackson did at Louisville when he won the Heisman Trophy. Louisville's got to compete in the ACC. It's got to be a top 15, maybe top 10 team, but he's one of the most dynamic playmakers in the country. If there's anyone that has an outside shot to get to New York, it's him. Oh, but Nate, you missed this guy, and then what about the quarterback for this team? I hear you. These are 10 quarterbacks that I think have a likely opportunity to get to New York. Let's look at 9 quarterbacks that maybe have more of an outside shot, but you can make a case for getting to New York. So here are 9 more quarterbacks that I do believe have a shot at getting to New York. They may just need to put in a little bit more work. I think Jackson Dart here at Ole Miss, a couple other SEC quarterbacks, and Will Rogers, KJ Jefferson, and Spencer Rattler are on this list as well. Now, when you talk about Jackson Dart, again, this is going to be kind of his first season throwing the football, much like Bryce Young and CJ Stroud were last season when they made the Heisman finalist and they went to New York. So Jackson Dart could prove to be that type of player, but again, Ole Miss losing a lot of talent from last year. They bring a plethra in from the portal. I think he's going to have to put in that work in order to get in to the Heisman Trophy ceremony. Again, some other guys from the SEC. Will Rogers. Oh, and Ole Miss has got to be another 10-win team. Mississippi State and Will Rogers. Well, Will Rogers is part of one of the most lethal passing attacks in the nation. He's going to put up the stats to be in New York as a Heisman contender. But will his team be able to match that kind of Heisman mentality, right? Mississippi State probably has to go on a run. I don't think has to be the best team in the SEC East because, of course, Alabama is there. But if Will Rogers can be, and Mississippi State can be the second best team in the SEC East, I can see him getting there, but that is a tough schedule. It's a lot to ask. Will Rogers, I think, is going to put up the numbers. He's just got to be able to have his team pull out some of those tougher games. KJ Jefferson, a guy that I think has some stuff to improve on and definitely has to stay healthy. But KJ Jefferson in Arkansas seem ready to explode in 2022, and that could be a really good team down there in Fayetteville, Arkansas. KJ Jefferson, I think, going to be a good quarterback and has a pretty solid shot, in my opinion, to get to New York. Again, longer odds, in my opinion, though, than those 10 guys you just saw. Spencer Rattler was a name jumping around the Heisman candidacy last season, and he was supposed to be one of the favorites, and it didn't pan out that way. He has a fresh start now with a new program in South Carolina that's looking to build on. So another quarterback in the SEC East that, again, Spencer Rattler in South Carolina may not have to be the best team in the SEC East because, again, there's Georgia, but second best team, and if he can prove a lot of the people that doubted him last year or over the past couple seasons wrong, Spencer Rattler may very well find himself in New York. Got a couple quarterbacks here out of the Big 12. Quinn Ewers at Texas. Now, the interesting thing with Quinn Ewers is he's top 10 in a lot of sports books to win the Heisman. He may not even be that starting quarterback for Texas this upcoming season. So while I like Quinn Ewers, he's the highest upside guy that Texas has. Of course, Hudson Card going to be that other guy. Hudson Card may end up starting the first few games and may even end up starting that Alabama game for this Texas Longhorns team. It's a team that, yes, injuries have been there, I know, but just talking about Quinn Ewers and Hudson Card, I mean, Quinn Ewers might not even start. So there's definitely some work that needs to be done for Quinn Ewers. He's got to be able to put up the numbers. Maybe he's got to pull off a Caleb Williams type situation from last season, and I think do it better than what Caleb Williams did last year. And then there's JT Daniels here as well. Now, JT Daniels, the talent has always been there for JT Daniels. However, the results really have not been. I know people are going to point to the fact that he didn't lose a game at Georgia and he was still really good at USC. I understand that, but he's been dealing with some injuries over his career, and he didn't lose a game at Georgia. Well, he was backed up by a generational talent on the defensive side, both in 2020 and 2021. So JT Daniels, I think, has got to maybe flip some expectations around. I know the people around Morgantown are very, very high on this team. They like what West Virginia has, and I do too. JT Daniels got to perform at a high level, though, for him to get to New York. You got Casey Thompson from Nebraska there. Simply put, Nebraska's got to win the West. That's a way Casey Thompson gets into New York, and he's got to put up some stellar seasons like what he may have been on pace to do at Texas last season. And then a couple quarterbacks out of the Pac-12. Bo Nix is there at Oregon. Now, I like Bo Nix a little bit more than most people do around the nation. I understand there are some things that Bo Nix has to work on in his game, fundamentally, whatever have you. But he's with a new program, a new head coach, a fresh start for Bo Nix. Maybe the fresh start is exactly what he needs to kind of kickstart his way into being a Heisman candidate quarterback. And then the other Pac-12 quarterback, and a guy that I really like coming into this year, in Cameron Rising. Cam Rising and the Utah Utes, I also feel like are ready to explode in 2022, much like KJ Jefferson there at Arkansas. That was a really good team last year and was a couple maybe subpar losses away from getting into the college football playoff last season. Utah, going to be a solid team, a really, really good team again this year, and I like Cam Rising's odds to get to New York. Maybe a little better than some of the guys that you'll see here on this slide. Okay, Nate, I'm tired of hearing about quarterbacks. You've given me all the names. What are some other players I need to look for? Well, let's talk about running backs, wide receivers, and a linebacker. Will Anderson, we'll get there here in a little bit. But in the running back room, well, Bijan Robinson is going to be the best running back in the country this year. But Bijan Robinson in Texas, they're going to have to overcome some injuries in order for Bijan to get to New York, but also a top 10 betting favorite in a lot of sports books around the nation. Trayvion Henderson and Jamir Gibbs are a couple really, really good running backs there as well. Trayvion Henderson lit it up as a freshman last season, and he looks to be even better in 2022. He can compete for a spot in New York as well as Jamir Gibbs. He's going to be getting some Heisman votes there as well. The high-profile transfer from Georgia Tech comes over to Alabama, to replace Brian Robinson and bring maybe a little bit more spark to the run and pass game for Bryce Young and company. Jamir Gibbs may very well end up taking some Heisman votes away from Bryce Young. Now, some other running backs that might be a little bit more off people's radar, but now that their names are here, you're like, oh, yeah, I can see it. Devon Achane has world-class speed, the running back out of Texas A&M. He's going to have to use that speed really well and have a really good season, and Texas A&M may have to have a 10-11 win season this year for Devon Achane to be considered. Kind of the situation with Kenneth Walker last year. Kenneth Walker, if Michigan State maybe, and this is just the reality of the award, but if Michigan State maybe had only won 8-9 games last year, Kenneth Walker may not have been talked about as much as a Heisman contending running back. I feel like Devon Achane and Texas A&M are equipped to get to that 10-game mark, and I like Devon Achane a lot. Braylon Allen, one of my favorite players at the running back position in the nation. He tore it up as an 18-year-old at Wisconsin last season, and now being a year older at 19, he looks to be a year older and a year better as well. I think Braylon Allen is going to get quite a few votes to get to New York as a Heisman Trophy candidate, especially if he can put on another stellar season like he did last year. And then Deuce Vaughn is here as well. He's got a new quarterback in Adrian Martinez, the former Nebraska product. And Deuce Vaughn, I think, is one of the best, if not the best, dual threat running back in the entire nation. Jamir Gibbs is up there as well. But Deuce Vaughn is a guy that I really like this year, and I could see him getting quite a few votes to get to New York. But there are 6 running backs that I feel like have some realistic shots. You guys can let me know more names down in the comment section below, and I'm sure you will. Mo Ibrahim is a name that gets that can be brought up here. However, with Mo Ibrahim coming back from an Achilles injury, never easy for a running back to do, so he's got to overcome that. In the wide receiver, well, there are 2 guys that stand out to me, and I think they're the best 2 wide receivers in college football. That's Jackson Smith-Njigba and Jordan Addison. Both of these guys put up stellar numbers last year. In fact, Jordan Addison won the Biletnikoff last year, and Jackson Smith-Njigba, he outshined Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. He is the guy that both of those guys pointed at in the locker room and said, we're good, but this dude is crazy. Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be getting Heisman votes this year. I think Jordan Addison is going to be getting Heisman votes as well, especially since Caleb Williams and C.J. Stroud are 2 of the betting Heisman favorites. And then Will Anderson. He's actually a top 10 betting favorite in a lot of sports books. Why? Well, he's a generational talent. Led the nation last year with 17.5 sacks, had 31 tackles for loss, over 100 tackles. I mean, Will Anderson is just insane. If you've never watched Will Anderson or you don't quite know what I'm talking about, I assume most people watching this video are aware of what Will Anderson brings to the table. But in case you're not, you got to watch film on him before the season because he is absolutely dynamite. He is stellar. He is fantastic. He's part of the best pass rushing duo in the entire nation. And he very well may end up being considered as the best college football player in 2022. Now, does that mean he wins the Heisman? Well, slow down there. I'll give you my prediction. But Will Anderson is a generational type talent at the linebacker position. He is really, really, really good. And I would honestly be shocked if we don't see him in New York. A lot of people feel like he was left out of that conversation last year. Yeah, he'll be making his statement on why he should be in New York again this upcoming season. So with all that being said, here are my predictions. I think 3 names aren't going to be a big surprise, and 1 name may shock you, but these are the 4 names that I have going to New York. Of course, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, the 2 guys on the front of the list that I talked about before. I also have Will Anderson going to New York. I think, again, he's a generational type pass rushing talent. I don't think we're going to see another player like him for the next 10, 20 years. Will Anderson is a generational type talent. A lot of people, in my opinion, even feel like he got snuffed out of being in a Heisman finalist last season. I think he comes back, maybe even has a better season and finds his way into New York. I don't think I need to explain why Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud are here. They're the best 2 quarterbacks in the nation. They're going to be jockeying along with Will Anderson for the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. And then this pick may surprise a lot of people, but I'm going with the Utah quarterback, Cameron Rising. Yeah, again, I really like this Utah team overall, and I think Utah is ready to explode this year. I definitely think Utah is going to be a really, really good team this upcoming season, and I think Cam Rising is going to be a huge part why. So I got Cam Rising going to New York as a Heisman finalist. Now, who wins the Heisman Trophy? Drum roll, please. I got C.J. Stroud. You can call bias on me if you want. Throw all the shade you want in the comment section below. But I think it's going to be really, really hard for what Bryce Young did last year. I think it's going to be really hard for him to replicate that and maybe even outperform it in 2022. Will Anderson, it's always tough for a defensive player to win the Heisman Trophy. He's got to have a generational and just legendary season this year. Cam Rising again at Utah. Again, I think he's going to have to do a lot to even make it to New York, much less win the Heisman. I like C.J. Stroud to win the Heisman. The talk all around camp is you saw what he can do last season. He's been getting more accurate. He has a new helmet that apparently fits him better. And C.J. Stroud is just a guy that when you look at C.J. Stroud, he seems to be already a better quarterback, and they haven't even played Notre Dame yet. So C.J. Stroud is my pick to win the Heisman in 2022, becoming, I believe, the 8th Buckeye to ever walk away with the award. So there you go. That is my Heisman predictions. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Give me your Heisman finalists and your Heisman predictions. I'd love to hear it all. Please continue, like, comment, subscribe. It does help support the channel. And remember to play hard but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.